And good evening and welcome to News Sources in a week that the country is facing dwindling water levels in one of our biggest water reservoirs. It is feared that city residents are likely to face another season of water rationing. But away from matters politics, there are concerns that intolerance is slowly creeping onto the political landscape. Good evening. This is News Sources. My name is Julie Masiga. These are the highlights.
Our party is not going to tolerate political hooliganism or thuggery in the party.
The Commission will gazette the names received within 7 days from today. That is on the 12th of April.
Tutoke kwa nyumba yetu sisi wote kama tuko pamoja na tuko na nguvu kama kitu kimoja.
Now, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission is warning parties not to start nominations before the lists of the nominees are gazetted. IEBC boss Wafula Chebukati says the lists will be gazetted 7 days from today. These latest developments could be a setback to the ODM primaries that was set to start on Friday.
The Commission will gazette the names received within 7 days from today. That is on the 12th of April. All political parties will have 14 days thereafter to prepare and conduct party primaries not later than the 26th of April 2017.
Right, welcome to the show. Before we start, let me introduce my guest tonight. Right by my side here is Betty Waitherero, a regular panelist, friend to the show, political researcher. Right next to her there is Faith Rono, a journalist in her own right and also a corporate communications specialist. And of course, Dr. Nelly Bosire, trade unionist extraordinaire. Welcome to the show. Thank you, ladies, for being here. So today we start with the party primaries and the IEBC seeming not to be ready once again. I think, Dr. Nelly, I'll start with you. We've been talking about this for a while here on News Sources, about the readiness of the IEBC. But now, again, there's a hurdle towards nominations. They're supposed to start on Friday for ODM, and that might not be possible. What's your take on this?
Well, we're just behaving like the typical Kenyans we always are. We've had 5 years to get IEBC ready. Here we are still firing people last minute. We're trying to hire people last minute. And just when you think that finally we look like we stand a chance, now we're holding party nominations back. We're still talking about kits that have just arrived. We haven't tested them. Well, this is really sort of like, I mean, I can understand the cynics who are saying, are we trying to set the stage so that then we can have every single reason possible to say that everything failed us, and that's why we're having challenges with how the elections are coming out. We've had this loud and clear. People have raised a lot of concerns. But, well, we have to say, let's give Chebukati a chance to prove himself right.
Right, and Faith, there are already murmurs that ODM could possibly go ahead with their nominations regardless, but we haven't confirmed that. But still, like Nelly is saying, we're a country which seems perpetually unprepared. So what do you reckon is going to happen now with this latest hurdle?
I mean, like Nelly said, it's true that we have not seen the preparedness by IEBC, and questions have been raised on actually their preparedness. But again, I want to say that gazetting of aspirants, before the party primaries is a provision in the elections law. If you look at Article 10, subsection 2C of the Elections Act, it is very clear that the Commission is actually mandated to gazette the names of all the aspirants before they go to nominations. Now, IEBC gave out very clear timelines in January on when parties should actually submit names of their aspirants.
And didn't they do that?
Now, they gave out timelines. Now, ODM, for instance, knew about these timelines. Yeah. They knew that, today was the last day, for instance, of submitting those names. Right. They didn't do that. So you actually, Chebukati coming out to say that, we have to gazette these names is just, trying to fulfill the provisions of the law. And they have really, we understand that, they've not showed the sense of preparedness that we would have expected. But again, there's a law that they must follow, like he said, and so that is why they're saying they have to gazette those names.
But with Jubilee having their nominations, rather planning their nominations for 21st, isn't it a bit convenient that that's like miles away from 13th, which is when I think the names are going to be gazetted on the 12th or the 13th, and then ODM being left flat-footed. Is this by design, Betty, or is this just pure coincidence?
As Faith has said, and as Dr. Basiri has said, we have a tendency not to do things on time, not to be ready. Both Jubilee and ODM have shown this there's an inner struggle when it comes to deciding who'll get what nominations and, and their aspirants. So when you look at it that way, they're trying to buy themselves time to sort out those inner conflicts as they go into their party primaries. Again, you have a situation like with ODM, you have direct nominations, which is, it's contentious in and of itself. So when you look at all of that, I tend to agree with the IEBC chairman that let's follow the law here. Because nobody seems to want to do it. Let's follow the law here and make sure that we have gazetted the aspirants, and then you can go ahead and hold your party primaries.
Right, and I think I saw on Twitter, I think it was yesterday or the day before, there was Raila was trending for trying to bring down the IEBC and trying to, I think like Nelly, you said, trying to create some kind of situation to discredit the elections. But more and more we're seeing that the IEBC really isn't that ready. So people might be making noise, but I think they could be justified, Nelly.
Well, they could be justified, yes. But as I said again, you see, because we haven't seen IEBC so far not doing what they need to do, then we cannot hold them hostage. I mean, we can't hold them ransom. They have a job to do. We as Kenyans expect them to do this job. We're the ones complaining about the rumors we're hearing about this might fail and that might fail. And here they are trying to exonerate themselves, saying, look, we'll follow the law to the letter. You will bring in your nominations or your aspirants for nominations. We will gazette. You will hold your nominations. We have these names here with us that must be registered with us before we go into elections. All those things. They're doing their bit as much as we're seeing them looking unprepared. We have to cut them some slack. Now, the parties themselves have work to do.
Right.
Why ODM is not ready is beyond me. I mean, we can look at Jubilee. Jubilee has had challenges. They were setting up the party. They had to get officials. They had to, they've had a lot, and yet they're looking like they're trying to meet what's required.
I think I'll just have to cut you off there, but we're still staying with matters of nomination. And now the Orange Democratic Movement has been the first political party to issue nomination certificates to aspirants ahead of the August 8th general election. Party leader Raila Odinga presided over this event this Monday at the Bomas of Kenya. The nomination tickets were handed to aspirants who are unopposed by the closure of the deadline to return nomination papers. This latest development is likely to have a ripple effect.
Tuko tayari kutembea Kenya nzima kuhakikisha ya kwamba 8th of August uko ndani ya State House na umebeba ile Biblia ya kusema mimi Raila Amolo Odinga.
Right, so direct nominations. If you can cast our minds back to the Men in Black incident, and you would think after that fiasco, they would not give themselves another chance to mess these things up. But we have the direct nominations on one hand, and then we have people fighting over nomination tickets on the other hand. I think I'll start with you, Betty. And the interesting thing to me that stood out from the people who got direct nominations is Kidero has a direct nomination. So the people of Nairobi have Kidero if you're on the opposition side.
Yes.
What's your take on that?
I think that in the case of Kidero, this was expected. There's not been a strong contender for the Nairobi governor from within ODM. So that's, it's more or less expected. What I don't like about it is, it's like a given. Okay, certain people will get a direct nomination, and especially across the counties. But I see it from their perspective. If internally we do not have contenders to these seats, then why are we, let's not waste the time going into party primaries when there's, it's just one person on the ballot, or there's no real strong rival, might as well give some people.
But is it possible in the whole of Nairobi, there's nobody who wants to run and
we didn't
counter
say that they
Kidero.
don't want. They want, but are they strong enough to unseat Kidero within the party? That's the challenge that they would have to face.
But what is wrong with just putting 4 different names on that primary paper and letting people make a choice?
I think, I mean, really, what happens to, to candidates who have spent, their time and money, going to the grassroots to sell their agenda? I mean, for me, party primaries should actually be a democratic process where, it's a level playing field where everyone comes to the playing field and the citizens decide on your fate. And so when ODM starts to churn out direct nominations, what happens to, those candidates who have actually gone out there to campaign? Now, for instance, Kidero, I've not seen him campaigning at all, apart from going to churches and whatnot.
Going to church is campaigning.
Now, it's not as strong as, we will see him come out now after the nominations, after he got a direct ticket. Now, this is, it's a very old way of doing things, and that is why we're seeing the kind of backlash from the party members. I just saw some MCA aspirant from Garissa today, was running on ODM, complaining that even after paying for nomination and going through all the hassle, he still had to. Somebody else got the certificate. It's very unfortunate. And it's very historic. I mean, we will see this, Jubilee are going to hold their nominations, I think, on 21st. Yeah. And so we are likely, I don't want to be the devil's advocate, but we're likely to see the same issues play out. It's historic. We've seen party nominations have never been fair. And so,
don't be such a pessimist, Faith.
Really? I mean, we will talk about it when that time comes, but we will see the same issue play out. It's never been fair. It's about who is strong, you're close to who. And the issue of Ongoro, for instance, she's an ODM diehard, and then what happens?
But I know it's never been fair, Dr. Nelly, but surely we have, especially the opposition has a history of poorly held nominations. You would think that they would try and get it right.
Well, for me, I look at it as our democracy has not yet matured because who should drive nominations? It should come from the members of the party. A lot of people are right now going on their phones and realizing they're registered to parties they don't even know exist. So that therein begins to be the challenge, which probably then would be a bigger hurdle that we hope in future IEBC should be able to address. That your party, and then we begin to have these movements where people actually believe in their parties, and when these nominations come, then they're equal participants, and the nominations are not driven by the holders or office bearers of this party. Then maybe we might begin to see some level of democracy, because democracy shouldn't just be practiced, it should also be seen to actually be practiced.
And another thing that comes out of this, I guess, is that ODM has gone ahead and issued 850 direct nominations as a part of NASA. There was supposed to be at some point where there was supposed to be joint nominations, Betty.
What NASA to me,
what is happening to NASA?
To be honest, NASA to me is something that is so fragile. I think that at some point it's just going to fall apart. That's my opinion. Because I look at the sort of noise and the sort of claims being made by Kalonzo Musyoka, I get the sense that he's 1 foot out the door, So when it comes to even issuing direct nominations, 850, ODM is trying to basically bulldoze their way in this alliance and dominate the coalition towards their favor, which of course is very unfair if you think about it.
Right, but then
yeah,
Faith, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it was a very bad idea for me from the first time to have joint nominations. I don't think it would have worked because we have regions, for instance, in Western Kenya, where we have candidates running for governor or the gubernatorial position in Ford Kenya, in ODM, and so it becomes very difficult if the NASA coalition, as it is, runs a joint nominations. And so it is very important that, as it is right now anyway, definitely it looks like every political party under the NASA umbrella will have their different nomination exercises going on, as opposed to a joint nomination exercise. We should have probably brought down the coalition because of the differences that would come out definitely.
Right, but then to be fair, Dr. Nelly, ODM does have the widest reach nationally. It is the biggest party, so it would only make sense that they would throw their weight around a bit. But what does this portend, in your opinion, for NASA?
So I think if ODM itself is having issues putting its house in order, then obviously it becomes a problem then to be part of a bigger, loosely thrown together coalition, which, as Betty said, is we do not know how long we don't even know if it just hold, on its last legs right until August. Chances are things could happen. I mean, we know in politics how quickly things can change.
Right.
So I feel that ODM, having had the kind of roots it has, the kind of followership it has, and probably the only party that actually enjoys the kind of support regionally in this country that any other party within the coalition does, it should have been the one to sort of like set the step and say, look, let's try and do this the right way. So if ODM did its nominations right, yeah, that means that even the other parties in the House would look at it and say, okay, why would I really want to field a candidate in this field? And we think regionally where we come from, the person that is there in ODM is the strongest person we have to carry through the election in August.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But carrying this nomination discussion forward, as the direct nominations were happening at Bomas, drama was unfolding in Migori town where several people were injured when chaos broke out at an ODM rally. This was after various political camps clashed, forcing police to shoot into the air to disperse the crowds. One of Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho's bodyguards was shot and injured in the ensuing violence. Are we staring at what is likely to be a violent campaign period ahead of the August polls? Right.
I'm not responsible. I'm not responsible. What I'm totally against is the level of provocation that certain individuals are applying on me. At least we should be courteous enough, yeah? But you cannot keep on provoking one another so that you get your excuses. Like they're pushing me to the corner so that I can be at their level of equilibrium, so that I can also be classified as being a very, very violent person. That is what they are driving towards.
What happened today was an assassination scheme on Governor Joho. You have seen where the bullet has gone through in his car. That is exactly where he was seated. And I was sitting on the other side of the car. So we want to know who planned this assassination.
And I think the script was that when Joho comes to Nyanza, chaos is created. And then there is, then if he dies, you say, oh, that was a stray bullet.
Right, so Migori violence, and it looks like one group, kind of like the governor said, they are provoked the other group. And this is probably around the whole nominations drama as well, where people are battling for positions and trying to get themselves basically onto the ticket. But Betty, do we condone violence at any level for whatever reason?
And it's something that we might expect to see more often of as we run up to the party primaries, and then shortly after the nominations process, you'll see that people are going to contest for their seats. They're not going to back down. They're not going to let anyone, hold back their aspirations. And it's going to get violent. I actually fear for that because, as Dr. Nelly Bosiri has said, we don't have a mature democracy. Far from it, actually, we have not yet evolved into a democracy. For instance, within the same party, you have one governor being shot at and the other governor complaining about being provoked. So clearly, there's the internal tensions that are quite high. I'd expect that you'd see more of this, and you'd see it, as you go down. So to speak, as you go lower down in the seats. We've heard of MCAs being killed. We've heard of, in fact, I was told this, about 2 MCAs in Mombasa have 24-hour security because of the same sort of, kind rivalry.
Pre-election violence, if you like.
Yeah.
But, I have a problem when people say we're not a mature democracy, because remember what happened the video of the policeman basically executing a suspect in public, and people said, oh, our systems are not mature. You cannot expect policemen to follow the rule of law. But at which point do we start, Faith, saying that we have laws and maybe we should follow them?
Now, I think first I want to say that, the issue, the incident that we saw in Migori is, the kind of political intolerance of the highest order. Like Betty said, we're likely to see more of that. It's not only in Migori. We saw something happen in Kirinyaga, Muranga. So it's across the board. It's very unfortunate for this incident, for instance, because it's actually ODM again, back to ODM, clashing, within its own ranks. Within its own ranks, and so Governor Obado saying that he was not informed of Governor Joho going to Migori. I mean, it's the kind of protocol that I've seen in the political circle, which is really weird to me, if you ask me, and it happens across the board, like I said. Now, whether, like you said, that is it the police, can we justify the deeds of the police? I don't think we can justify them. It's very unfortunate that they shot on Joho's PA. But again,
let me just interrupt you, Faith. Do you remember that, Obado is claiming that they went to his county without so much as a by the way. They didn't even tell him they were coming. They didn't invite him. And the same thing happened when Uhuru went to
Exactly.
Mombasa.
It's not the first time it's happening. In fact, Uhuru met face to face with, with the kind of political intolerance in that region.
Right.
And so we cannot say that, this is a scheme by government, like I saw Joho saying, to assassinate Joho. It's ridiculous. It cannot be a scheme by government. It's the kind of political intolerance that we're seeing within our political circles, within the political class. And I think Kenyans should actually sit back and rethink going to the elections. Otherwise, we're likely to see, like Betty said, the kind of violence that we saw in Migori, which is, very unfortunate.
Right, but then I think, again, also the populace is very gullible, because you will see somebody saying on TV that it was an assassination attempt, and perhaps it was not. But then how else are you supposed to make an informed decision if all you ever get is these politicians throwing information at you, Dr. Nloli? Does the electorate need to be more educated about what's happening?
I would probably just look at Migori first, and I would take a step back and look at the population of Migori. In this country, what most people don't understand is that Migori is a county that people don't think much about, but it's an extremely cosmopolitan county. It is a county that has a population from a lot of ethnic groups existing in this small cauldron. Now, what has happened is that what is perceived to be the majority population then are seen to always carry the day when it comes to making political decisions. And I will tell you that it's just because the press doesn't report, but Migori, if you've been able to follow Migori throughout, since we had the last elections to date, literally every other week there's a demonstration in town. I've been caught up in it severally. You're driving into town, for one reason or the other, there are people demonstrating, there are shots being fired, and I think the population there has learned to live with it and accept and think that it's normal. So for them to have reached this level of violence, we, as the rest of Kenya, are standing back in shock. To them, they went back to business, by the way, and life moved on. And this is the reality. So what's happening is that the politicians can continue riding on that space and creating whatever narrative they think works for them and sell it to their followers. But the reality is that this is a county that you're not just going to look at as you will look at any other county. Their volatility levels are very high. Little things make the people explode, and probably because there are a lot of young people sitting around ready to throw stones and demonstrate and what have you, it becomes the order of the day.
Right, so let's stay with Migori County. And it is now emerging that the Migori violence had everything to do with the ODM party nominations. According to the Standard newspaper, Governor Joho and Suna East MP Junet Mohammed were there to endorse former Minister Ochilo Ayako, which did not sit well with the incumbent Governor Okoth Obado. Also at the rally were Senators Anyang' Nyong'o and James Orengo. The two ODM senators are close allies of party leader Raila Odinga. Now, could they have been delivering a message in Migori? So this thing just gets better and better and better. So now it's now linked to nominations and trying to force people down other people's throats. And I read an article about the whole idea of strong candidates like Joho endorsing others and expecting now people to vote for them, which is not sitting well in the regions, of course. And remember, Obado back in 2013 had to decamp from ODM for the same reason. I say again, Betty, you would think that the opposition would get its house in order and just put together a nomination process that is completely above board.
But you know, and this is a problem that we have. We are refusing to understand these political parties for what they really are. We're assuming that they are structured to seek democratic space. We're assuming that everyone coming in is on an equal footing. But this party has its owners. I mean, it's the same with Jubilee. They all do. Wiper and Chama cha Maendeleo all have their owners. And at that highest echelon, you will find strongest candidates like Joho will go around endorsing all the way down to MCAs. It happens. So when you see that sort of confrontation, of course, the incumbent is fighting for his position. He has worked very hard to even make it that far. And he's not happy with that sort of, external interference in his regional politics. And his supporters rightly reject, being imposed on a leader. At the same time, he doesn't seem to have repaired. You mentioned that he had a falling out with them in 2012, 2013. Doesn't seem to have repaired those or mended those relationships, and there's still that acrimony. And so, of course, it's going to erupt. So, yes, you're asking me why they can't get it right. Well, because we're assuming that they're put together a political party for democratic purposes. No.
They're just vehicles to win elections.
Exactly. Yeah. Now you're understanding.
Well, I'm a bit slow, but I catch on real quick.
Yeah, and I was going to say that picking up from where Betty left, that it's the kind of, the reason why the ODM are giving out direct nominations, it's the same thing. It's the same script. Joho is a deputy party leader of ODM. So for him to go to Migori, hold a rally, which Obado felt that he was endorsing Ayako, it communicated a very serious message, that we've come to endorse Ayako. And we've seen, Obado receive a lot of backlash from ODM. There's a time that he went to State House, and there's been rumors that he's defecting to Jubilee and so forth. So probably also the party structures, it speaks to the kind of party structures, the party leadership. And for even Raila Odinga to come out and say he condemns the actions of whatever happened in Migori, it made me laugh, because, I mean, really, this is your deputy party leader. You should have known that he's going to Migori for whatever reason. And probably Ayako was attending that meeting. And so there was no other way of explaining to Obado that, this is a meeting to endorse Junet Mohammed, because that is how it was made to appear. And so, again, it speaks to the kind of democracy we are seeing the leaders of political parties endorsing, specific candidates. And so it just breaks up the entire, conversation of democracy.
So really, I mean, for me, what I would think, for lack of a more polite way to actually put it, the bottom line is that if you plan to hang out with vultures, please don't fall down, because they're going to assume you're dying and they're going to eat you up. Governor Obado, the last few months, has had a really bad time. This is a guy who's gone on social media and said, guys, you must re-elect me back, because if you don't, I'm going bankrupt. Don't expose your underbelly, because the vultures will swarm in. It doesn't even matter if these vultures are from within. And this is exactly what's happening to him. This is exactly the state of ODM and probably every other party that really has some muscle. Bottom line is that the moment you look like you are replaceable or you're no longer bringing value, it doesn't matter whether you're in an elected position actually or not. This will be happening to you.
Right.
And as you said, yes, probably there's no evidence to say this is what they went to do. But sometimes people don't need to speak. This is politics. People just need to give an intonation, and the public will pick it up from there and run with it.
Right.
He ended up being caught flat-footed, that I would say.
Yes, unfortunate, but probably the way things are going to go, as you say, Betty. But tonight on Twitter, we are asking you, do you think the government is doing enough in stemming political violence? Do you think the government is doing enough to stem political violence? You can reach me at Julie Masiga at KTN News. The hashtag is News Sources. Right now we're going on a quick break. Do stay with us. We'll be right back.